Ladies and gentlemen, the situation on the Bitcoin price chart seems to be deteriorating quite rapidly. Now, let's be very clear. We are still on the major support at around $108,000. We're still holding that support zone. There is support between 108,000 and 112,000. We're right in the middle of that support block. In fact, there's support coming up to that support zone as well from the bull market support band. There's a few things here, but the fact of the matter is we can't ignore the bearish things that seem to be happening. The weakness does seem to be stacking upwards, and although for now we do hold that macro level, there is a serious argument to be made that it could be lost. And so if that macro level is lost, what will happen to Bitcoin? Will we see a break of the 4-year cycle, or will we see Bitcoin swing back upwards again later in the year to reach a new high? So we need to do two very important things. Number one, we need to understand both scenarios. We need to understand the bounce. We need to understand the breakdown. And then we need to understand within those two hypotheticals what the best path of action to take is. Buying, selling, holding. What specifically should we buy? What specifically should we sell? What specifically should we hold? All these things will be discussed in this video. So without further ado, I'll check out the Bitunix Exchange here on the screen for 30 seconds and then we'll get into it. I appreciate if you check out this exchange, guys. I bring you free content. The only way that's possible is by looking at things like Bitunix. It's an exchange that I use personally. I wouldn't have picked it if I don't. I use it daily on every single trade I take, actually. It's my main exchange. And that's for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's globally accessible. It's non-KYC. You can access it without a VPN from anywhere in the world. Very rare these days to find an exchange that is globally accessible. A lot of those have been clamped down by regulators. Bitunix is still going strong in that regard. On top of that, it's never been hacked before. You're not sacrificing security. In fact, you're getting on an exchange with great security, historically speaking. Very rare to find an exchange that hasn't been hacked or had a single security breach in 4 years of track record. That's exceptionally good. It's got everything you would expect on a major exchange. And lastly, if you sign up with my referral link down below, you can get a 15% trading fee discount on futures attached to your account for life. So use my link down below to sign up. Helps out the channel and it helps out you by getting on a good exchange. Check it out down below. Let's get into the content. So I am going to front load this video with the pessimistic stuff because there is a lot of pessimism to be had on these Bitcoin charts, especially over the last 3 days. First and foremost, we are in a breakdown at this point on Bitcoin on a short-term basis. We're not yet in a medium-term or long-term breakdown, and that's because our critical support band at around $108,000, as proven by the volume profile, as proven by visual identification, still very much holds. You can see that level in green. There's no medium-term breakdown here, but fact of the matter is the short term does seem to be progressively worsening. Not only are we moving downwards in the short term with a clear lower low made over the last couple of days, that is happening with a daily chart RSI momentum breakdown. You can see that in yellow, a level that held on the RSI since March, almost 5 months ago, has broken down with a daily candle close. It's very, very bad news. We have also seen a clear resistance support flip. You can see it where I've circled in yellow from this red line, a very critical, very important red line, which goes right back to the 2017 all-time high, cuts across 2021 highs, and made even worse. Unfortunately, it does get a little bit worse from here. We've also seen a breakdown from a critical support line, which was uptrending since back here in April 2025, right? 3-4 months ago. And that, of course, just like the 2017 line, has been resistance support flipped. So the situation has been getting pretty rough, especially over the last 4 days, exactly on Bitcoin. And there doesn't seem to be much light at the end of the tunnel. In this, what I mean by that is there doesn't seem to be much short-term relief coming at this point. Now, I will say this. The breakdown is slowing down, and that's because, again, we're encroaching on very important, very strong support levels. Unfortunately, Bitcoin has been unable to hold on to the 100 EMA on the daily chart, which is another bit of a red flag there. If we look at the 100 EMA, that is the level that has divided and segmented Bitcoin price action quite nicely into bullish and bearish segments over the last year and a half almost, certainly over the last year. We have broken down from that with a daily candle close. Luckily, you know, we've seen a daily candle close fake out before. Maybe we'll see it again. Who knows? But it's not a good sign, that's for sure. But very critically, although all this stuff is happening and although the chart looks like it's getting weaker by the day, we just simply have not seen that breakdown yet. We simply are still above the level we need to be above. We're above 108,000, simply put, and that's good. and there is a bull market support band, again, coming up to that price region. And perhaps for that reason, we'd even lower the breakdown to something like 107,000, because the last thing we want to be doing is selling right into a bull market support band. The point is, immediately below us is support, and we have not broke down from those levels yet. Very good to see. And look, at the end of the day, all this bearishness could mean nothing if we simply bounce from this price region. So I'm not throwing in the towel yet for Bitcoin. And for that reason, I'm certainly not throwing in the towel for something like Ethereum at this point. But yeah, look, if we open the charts next week and we're down here at 102,000, we're down here at 105, even 106,000, it's not looking very good on a medium-term basis. And I would see very, very minor reasons at that point to continue holding. With her medium-term breakdown from a support level like that, at this point in Bitcoin's 4-year cycle, I would be very skeptical to continue holding. That would be a time in which I'd be cutting. Now, with that said, it's very important to note that Bitcoin's 4-year cycle is based on dates, not based on price. It doesn't matter where the Bitcoin price goes, as long as the date is consistent with the date range trend, the 4-year cycle is technically still intact. So as long as we top out in or around October, so say anywhere from late September to late November, somewhere in that region, right? Maybe mid-September. If we top out somewhere in that region, it wouldn't have mattered what Bitcoin did in the lead up. It wouldn't have mattered if Bitcoin held 108 or not. What would have mattered is if we reached that top. So simply speaking, this doesn't really matter that much on a cyclical level. It matters more on a medium-term level. The issue with trusting the cycle fully though, right? Because some people would come out with that data and they would say, hey, look, the cycle says we top out in October, therefore we should trust the cycle. That's what some people would say. And they would continue holding. The problem with that is that if the cycle is wrong, you could be holding a long while before you realize the cycle is wrong. And you could be down 30, 40, 50% before you realize the cycle is wrong. And that's the issue of trusting the cycle blindly. So the cycle is not necessarily predictive. It's something that we can identify in hindsight. It's something that we should pay attention to some degree and react to. If we're in October and we start seeing weakness in October, that's a clear sign that the cycle is working. But we're not in October yet. We're in August. And in order for the cycle to be invalidated, we'd be waiting for months. And we don't want to wait for months in bearish price action on the medium term because we could be down a lot by then. So what I would probably do is I would be cutting my losses, cutting my wins actually at this point, cutting my wins if this level was broken. And then, of course, if we broke back above that level later on, and we did see signs of strength and that breakdown turned out to be a fake out, I would simply be re-entering. I really don't see a big fake out scenario here as unlikely. I think Bitcoin certainly could break down here. The more I look at the price action over the last couple of days, the more I see it as a likelihood. It would be a perfect trap. It would be a perfect liquidity grab. It would prove a lot of people wrong. And that's what the market does at phases of the cycle like this. That's what it did, for example, in the middle of 2021, right? Who expected a breakdown this big in the middle of 2021? During that breakdown, I've said at this point, cut, get out, run for the hills. We wouldn't have expected to go right down to 30,000. But again, we prioritized reactions over predictions, and we were able to buy during this region down here. And you can go back on my YouTube channel and validate those claims. The point is you need to prioritize reactions. You can't hold on to your bags just because the 4-year cycle says so. You can trust the cycle and also react to price action at the same time. And that's exactly what I advocate for on this YouTube channel. The reality is we are still looking macro bullish, not only because this level is currently still intact, but because we haven't seen any signs of a traditional bull market top. We haven't seen, for example, the 2-week chart RSI and this red line I'm drawing here, which has marked every single macro top in Bitcoin's existence. We are nowhere near that line yet. In fact, we're still in a consolidation triangle waiting for the next breakout of momentum. And that breakout of momentum, by the way, wouldn't come to the downside even if Bitcoin dropped below 108,000, which plays into the argument that we could see a big invalidation here, a big fake out here. We could drop downwards to Bitcoin to 100,000 and then retest the bottom of this triangle and then break upwards. There's so many possibilities for what could happen here, but you should not get lost in the possibilities, and you should probably just react to the price action as it comes on a range-based perspective, because if you do that consistently, 9 times out of 10, you're going to come out on top. Yes, there's going to be that odd time where you get scammed, like there was back here, for example, during this particular wick in August 2024. That was a scam wick. It was a liquidity grab. It was a fake out. Things like that do happen. But generally speaking, you're going to want to trust the range you're currently in. Even within that big scam wick we saw, there were so many times within that range. But if you trusted the range, bought at the bottoms, sold at the tops, you'd be in such a good position, even if you lost a lot on that one liquidity wick to the downside. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the price action plays out over the next couple of days. I really hope we avoid the drama and just bounce from this vague price region. What I will say is this as well. One single daily candle below 108,000 is not enough to break down properly from this level. This is not a clean level. It is a messy level. It is a level that is not sharply defined. You can see on the volume profile, we start seeing the volume really ramp up from that price region. But again, ramp up from that price region, not exactly stack at that price region. The bull market support band, again, is slightly under that price region. So we could see wicks, aggressive wicks to the downside. And they will be something you need to watch out for and not necessarily be overreactive and trigger happy towards. Either way, if I'm confirming and wrapping up my opinion from a macro perspective, I am macro bullish, not just because we hold this region at 108,000. That is one of the reasons, but because I do believe that the cycle should be trusted until invalidated. But even though I believe that the cycle should be trusted until it's properly invalidated, that doesn't mean I'm going to blindly hold if we break down from support. Right? We need to separate our reactions from our predictions. We need to react logically to the situation based on the charts, not based on theories. But yeah, if I had to guess and you had a gun to my head, I would certainly say that there's a solid 75% chance, 80% chance that Bitcoin continues to new highs this year. And the same with Ethereum, and I'd probably say the same even with many altcoins. I think there will be some sort of altcoin season. I don't think it will be as aggressive as price cycles, but I think it will be there. I still hold all these same beliefs that I came to you a week ago with. Now I'm just looking at the price action that I've always said I will react to. And I'm thinking, look, if we break down here, I'm going to react like I said I will. Now, we're not breakdown yet, so hopefully we don't. Only way to find out is to wait and see. Unfortunately, I wish I could bring you a short-term analysis. The short-term price action is a little bit incoherent at this point. We haven't seen enough maturity there. All we see is a potential descending channel formation. As I mentioned yesterday, something akin to a descending channel formation. The problem with descending channel formations is they don't have apex points. So we can continue in descending channel formations for significant periods of time without actual breakouts. I will say descending channel formations are indicative of upside swings to come. So that's a good sign. But when laid on top of all the other bad signs we've seen, does it really mean anything? Not really. So let's just react when it happens. The final point I'll come to is what level will Bitcoin need to get back above in order to be in the clear once more? Look, to me, it's quite simple. Bitcoin rejected from this line from 2017. It needs to get back above that line from 2017. And that line from 2017 is currently sitting at 117,000. Breaking that level would also be breaking our local high that we established from our rejection. So it's clear to me that 117,000 is the level Bitcoin needs to get above in order to be in a safe position once again. That's not too far away, so let's hope for it. Really is a bit of a stressful time for Bitcoin and also for Ethereum, which we haven't even discussed today, but my Ethereum analysis is basically the same as my Bitcoin analysis, so I'll spare you. Thank you for watching. I'll update you on the short-term situation tomorrow if something has changed. If nothing has changed, I'm going to look into the theory of a red September. I disagree with the red September theory on multiple critical levels, and I'm going to explain why in tomorrow's video. If there's been short-term developments, I'll look into the short-term instead. Guys, thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think about the market right now. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Let me know, by the way, in my community group chat. You can find the link down below. The YouTube comment section is filled with scammers, spams, and bots. Unfortunately, they're impossible to filter out. So the YouTube comment section is falling to the wayside here. I think the Telegram group is becoming more and more useful. You can join that for free if you're interested. And the final thing I'll say again is check out the Bitunix Exchange. Global, non-KYC, never been hacked before, hundreds of trading pairs, very low trading fees. I use it personally and I do so for a reason. So check it out if you're interested. The link is down below for a 15% trading fee discount. Get on there, guys. Help out the channel, help out yourself by getting on a great exchange. Thank you. Have a good one.